Hi guys, it's your girl Melissa at Amor Mental Health, dropping gems about all different types of mental health topics. Now, if you're interested in anything, any topic you want me to cover, please leave a comment, please subscribe, please share, please be interactive, and let's all heal together during this healing journey. Have a great day. Hey guys, it's your girl Melissa, your favorite mental health advocate. Say nah, but yeah, seriously, right? Like, can you relate? So today we'll discuss boundaries. What are boundaries? So a lot of us talk about different types of mental health conditions. Of course we have PTSD, of course we have anxiety, of course we have bipolar, of course we have schizophrenia, ADHD, Asperger's, autism, you name it, it's a diagnosis. But with that being said, I want to focus on boundaries. Because a lot of us don't know about boundaries. You know, a lot of us never learned the word no. And that kind of hurt a lot of us in different ways. Because we got to have boundaries. We even have to have boundaries within ourselves. Right? What are your boundaries? What are you willing to tolerate with yourself? What are you willing not to tolerate within yourself? Also, instilling boundaries in others. A lot of us don't even know that we have our own boundaries set in, or we don't even know what they are because we haven't been taught what it is to have boundaries. A lot of us were turned into people pleasers. And people pleasers doesn't really identify who you are because that just means that you're pleasing another individual out of fear. So you're literally you may be avoiding conversations, or you may actually be avoiding certain situations, circumstances, or people out of fear, or you may just be giving into people and you really don't want to, but you're just doing that because you want to avoid conflict. A lot of people pleasers like to avoid conflict. They don't feel like being conflicted. They don't feel like going through the motions. But sometimes when it comes to our boundaries and when it comes to who we are as individuals, conflict may have to rise. I'm not saying everything is evolving a fight motion or altercation, but you have to be your own advocate. And a lot of us don't even know how to advocate for ourselves. Let's talk about advocate for a second. Do you know how to be your own advocate? Do you know how to protect yourself? The reason why most people are people pleasers sometimes, I'm not saying 100%, is because they don't know how to protect themselves. They don't know how to really be their own advocate. They don't know how to set those stern boundaries. Like, hey, I didn't like when you did that. Because when you set a boundary to another individual, yes, it may rise conflict if the individual is not mature enough to understand where you're coming from. And I use the word mature because you are allowed to have boundaries. But a lot of us would dismiss another person's behavior and be like, oh, they're family, oh, it's okay. And we would allow them to become in this manner of with us, like in regards to dismissing. We would allow the dismissiveness of their behavior to violate our boundary, even though that is our boundary. Let's say hypothetically, and I want to give an example because it's better to use concrete examples versus just general conversation. So when I talk about boundaries, I'm talking about what you will permit for others, what you will allow, what you won't allow. Not everything is not black and white, but let's say hypothetically, let's say you have a boundary, and I'm going to use friendship as one, because a lot of people don't even know that they're allowed to have boundaries in friendships. So let's say you have a friend, right? And this friend is always inconsistent. That means that they don't always follow up what they call and they're supposed to call. And I know we have our life, but it's a friendship. You still are in a relationship with your friend, whether you realize or not. Let's say you have a party and a person RSVP and never follow up with you and was like, hey, I'm sorry I couldn't make it. And this is when communication is important. That friendship is inconsistent. They're not really valuing your time. They're not really valuing the friendship. And when that happens, when there's a lack of communication, then a boundary has to be set. Like, hey, maybe you can give a warning first. Like, hey, I understand that we're all busy with our thoughts, and I know that we're friends, and I know that we're not in a relationship, because I like to use friendship. Because I people are like, oh, we're not like a relationship. And it's like, no, it is a relationship. Not the same relationship you have with a lover, but it is very much a relationship. But you let the friend know, like, hey, you're inconsistent, and on top of that, I was looking forward to seeing you, and you didn't show up, or You should at least communicate that you couldn't make it. You know, anything of that nature. Penalties need to be made. Because that way you know how to move forward with that friendship. Or is the friendship really enough for you to move forward with if that individual is constantly inconsistent? And we as adults sometimes we like to put excuses for others' behavior. We'd be like, oh, they're just busy, they go through a hard time. Well, aren't we all going through different circumstances? Aren't we all going through something? The reason why boundaries are set place is to protect yourself. And this is why people pleasers don't always know how to protect themselves, because they're living out of fear. They're fearful of that friendship hypothetically not evolving. They're fearful of losing that friendship. But maybe that friendship needs to be lost if that individual is not going to be there for you or really be present in your life how you need them to be. And of course we all have different circumstances, I'm not saying that, but communication is still imperative. And having set boundaries. What are your boundaries? What are your boundaries in friendship? What is your boundaries in relationship, lover relationship? What are your boundaries with family? You know, having set boundaries. What are you willing to tolerate and not tolerate? And how do you advocate for yourself? Do you let them know like how you feel, or how do you present yourself when you're having conflict? Or do you just, to avoid conflict, get into the mode of people pleasing and just look at it like, oh, it's okay, like I'm just gonna let them have it? You know, I don't feel like getting into conflict. No, sometimes you need to speak up and be your advocate. You need to express how you feel, because all that does is start an eternal war battle within yourself if you do not be your advocate, if you do not set these boundaries. And I go more into details in the next video. I'm going to go more into details, I'll say, about boundaries, or why you need to set boundaries with lovers, why you need to set boundaries with family, why you need to set boundaries with job, you know, your time that you allow for your job, why you need to set boundaries with different things, even with yourself. Workout, hey, my boundaries for my own workout is going to be 2 hours a day at the max. After that, I'm done. You know, set boundaries with yourself. Hey, I'm going to be on a diet. That's called disciplining yourself. It's still a boundary that you're putting on yourself. So boundaries are important as we navigate the world, because it allows us to see like what are we going to permit and not, and knowing when to walk away from relationships. A lot of us in general want to hold on to relationships that had expired a long time ago. We do not understand when a relationship expired, because we hold on to the memories, or if not, we hold on to the individual and be like, oh, that's just the way they are. Do not make excuses for behaviors that are causing you harm. If a behavior is causing you more harm, then it is time to reevaluate yourself, for one, as to why do you want to keep a relationship that is toxic. For two, to evaluate if this relationship is really healthy or not. And three, knowing when to let go, even at times of difficulties, and learning to lean on your support system. A lot of us do not know how to have support system in place. So, I hope that gave you some insight about boundaries. I'll be dropping more video content, and drop a comment if you want me to discuss another video, another topic. But let's keep diving in and exploring mental health together. Have a great day. Bye.